paranormal. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. Tonight, you will hear from the people who live and work within these highly active locations, all in the efforts to discover America's most haunted. With your host, ghost hunter and author, Dan Terry.
Good evening, boys and ghouls. I am Dan Terry, your ghost host with the most haunted. But we're going to be switching up a little bit away from ghosts because we've got so many more mysteries we need to discuss. And one of the ones I have read about for years is crystal skulls. A lot of you know Dan Aykroyd, the actor from Ghostbusters, who's been such a big proponent of the paranormal, actually has his crystal skull vodka based on the legend of the crystal skulls. And I have heard so many different things. I've heard there are just a certain number of these crystal skulls that, if they're brought together, contains, some people say, all the knowledge of an alien race or a pre-human race here on the planet. It's a depository of information, that there's a lot of fake ones out there. So I don't know. I know the legends. And of course, we saw Indiana Jones, but we won't even discuss that movie. My guest tonight, though, is the Crystal Skull Explorer. Joshua Shapiro has been exploring and researching crystal skulls since 1983. That's probably the time I first heard rumors about him. And he is an author of the book Mysteries of the Crystal Skulls Revealed. And guys, I need you to hang on, because during the show, he's going to talk about free books he's got for you just for watching his story here. So let's bring up Joshua Shapiro, the Crystal Skull Explorer. Joshua.
Hey, Dan. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you came here, because this is one of those mysteries that I just can't find out enough stuff about.
Well, me neither. I keep researching it, and I'm not going to say I have all the answers, but I'll do my best to answer the questions and share the best information I have.
Well, that's all we could ask. And the legends are so wild about these things. Incan, pre-Inca, pre-human, I guess. Where did they come from? At least in your experience so far.
Well, there's 4 different classifications of crystal skulls that are spoken about in the crystal skull community that I've come across in my 40 years. Okay. So I'll show everyone the personal one I have. He's known as Portal de Luz, Portal of Light in Portuguese or Spanish. This is a modern carved skull by a Brazilian carver who happens to be extremely talented, because when I was offered this by my Brazilian wife, I totally was fascinated. She gave it to me as a gift for my birthday. Mm-hmm. And this guy has been with me since 1999. So we've had many adventures together. Now, the next type of crystal skull would be called an old crystal skull, which is defined as one that has been created from 100 years ago to maybe 1,000 years ago. And how do we know that one is an old crystal skull? We have to work basically either with indigenous people who have had that crystal skull and passed it down, or possibly spiritual sensitives who have been able to read the energy, because there really is no way, no tools that we can say with absolute certainty, like, what is the age? Because especially if they're made from quartz crystal, it's an inorganic substance. Carbon-14 dating doesn't work. So basically for me, one of my clues is, and I'm not always correct, I've made some mistakes too. So I will admit that, because we're all human.
Sure.
Is energetically, when I work with what I call a very old or ancient skull, it seems to have very intense frequencies of energy connected to it. Like, for example, there's the most famous one in the world known as the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. which Anna Mitchell Hedges received from her father when he passed. And then when she passed, Bill Holman now is the guardian of that skull.
Okay.
So that one is an almost human looking like skull, very advanced made, but it's also controversial. There are people who say, no, this can't be, super old, or some theories say it may have come from Atlantis. All right.
Do
And
these
go
the
ahead.
skulls like that, are the jaws movable, detachable, or is it one piece out of crystal?
Well, it's both. Mitchell had the skull. He has a movable jaw, but there are a lot of old or very old ones that are single piece quartz or
Okay.
other gemstone skulls. So crystal skulls used to be defined as a skull shaped object made from quartz, but now the modern carvers are making it out of all kinds of gemstones. Like I have a carver in India who provides for me new skulls, which I try to find the owners for. So today I got his latest box, and I had like 4 in there, totally different substances like golden obsidian, atlanticide, I remember green serpentine.
Mhm.
So, it just depends how the carver is
Okay.
orientated. Now, there was one other skull you didn't give me a chance to talk about, which is
Please.
quite rare. So I have a complete definition of it here, and that is an apported crystal skull. Apportation would link into the paranormal with the idea of objects usually connected to a spiritual medium that just appear out of nowhere. So, in other words, there has to be some intelligence in another dimension that is pushing into our reality some type of object. So, there are a few crystal skulls, and I have one myself, which unfortunately is in my car. Otherwise, I'd show you it. Uh, it's just a little tiny monkey looking skull. But when we went to see this medium who had a connection with crystal skulls,
Mhm.
when my wife and I, and by the way, she passed away in November, but she's right
I'm
here in
sorry.
spirit. So she'll be kind of giving me suggestions of things to say as well. So when we went to meet this person in Washington State, he was apporting objects through his mouth. He said there was an energy vortex and a little tiny skull came out through the mouth. And so I have that. So that would be the 4th kind. So I'm ready for your next question now, Dan.
That's incredible. So you got these really ancient ones that are totally untrackable as far as when they were made. And that you said was possibly from Atlantis or something.
Atlantis, Lemuria, or also now people don't know me, so they don't know if the next comment I make could it be true or not. One of
Okay.
my spiritual gifts is telepathy. I
Okay.
hear communications like Katrina. I occasionally I'll hear her, but she's in my thinking voice. The same voice when I read a book, the same voice when I'm even thinking right now, what am I going to say to you?
Mhm.
It's like I hear like almost immediately what I'm going to say just before. So the skulls, believe it or not, and I'm not the only person, this happened to Katrina also, will receive a communication from them. Doesn't it could be telepathy, could be on a feeling level, could be vision. It just depends upon what the person's gift is. So the only way I can define this is say there is a living consciousness, which could be a galactic being, extraterrestrial, could be an angel, could be a dimensional being, could be a nature spirit. But there is a living consciousness, depending upon the crystal skull and how it's been worked with and activated, that literally can speak through and animate it. So, like I told you, my skull had a name, Portal de Luz, Portal of Light. He has a personality, but his personality seems to mirror some aspects of myself. Like when I do my spiritual work, I like to be entertaining and humorous because I
Okay.
think when you do this, yes, it's important that we have these spiritual truths for the world, but you should be enjoying what you're doing. So I thoroughly enjoy being an explorer of crystal skulls because I never know what's going to happen to me next. I never know who I'm going to meet. I never know what new skulls I'm going to hear about.
Mhm.
So when you talked about in the beginning, how many are there? There are thousands of them, thousands of new ones being carved, and I have no clue how many of the old or very ancient ones there are because I keep hearing from people, like especially in Mexico, there's quite a few people who I guess through their family, it was handed down. They're finding it in the ground. It's connected with some of the Mesoamerican cultures there. Um, Jaime Maussan, who is a great UFO researcher in Mexico, and I was on his show, he had a crystal skull that he said they were digging in the ground and it just rolled out of the ground. And the person didn't know what it was, so he quickly made an arrangement to get it. It was a beautiful rose quartz skull, which I meditated with. And somehow, I can't remember what happened to me. It affected my hand somehow. It was recorded on it looked like there was blood coming from my hand or something when
Wow.
they recorded me meditating with, but I didn't feel anything. So I'm just mentioning that because there are many strange phenomena that happen around the crystal skulls, which are really alive and activated or have this living consciousness work through them.
There's a lot more to the crystal skull thing than even I thought. Basically, I heard there was a few that were completely ancient, perfect, beautifully done, and nobody knows what or where, and the rest were fakes.
Well, no crystal skull is a fake.
Okay.
All right. They're all real, regardless whether a modern carver is making it or whether it was done by an advanced civilization in the past like Atlantis, or if the Mesoamerican people had skilled carvers or the Chinese had skilled carvers, whoever it is. None of them are fake. When they say fake, they mean that they are not one of these very old skulls.
Right.
Right. But the problem is that I've seen, and I'll give a story from Portal de Luz to show that my comment is true, is a lot of people focus on the ancient or the very old ones. They think those are the only important ones. Those are the only ones that can affect people. But listen to this story. So there was a period of time that I lived in Holland. I was married to a Dutch lady. Daisy Rainbow was her name. And she helped me with the crystal skull for a period of time. And some of the skulls I have came when I was with her. Okay. And so there was a time where we went to a movie theater because there was a Mayan elder there, and a Dutch producer had made a documentary about the 2012 prophecy. And so my crystal skull, Portal de Luz, was with me, and I felt I should bring him to share him with the elder. So Portal says to me, Dad, he always calls me Dad. He says, Dad, when this elder comes out, there was like this space in an eating room, which we don't have in our movie theaters, but they have in Holland. You just put me on the table and you don't say anything. Okay. Don't talk to the other, nothing. Just put me on the table and see what happens. So I follow what he says. I tend not to argue with him when he gives me advice. Like he just told me yesterday, I was talking to a very special friend in Tampa, Florida, and he said, Dad, I don't care whether you like this or not. She loves me and I need to spend time with her. You're going to have to let me stay with her for a few days. So this is the kind of thing that he tells me. Anyway, so he's on the table and eventually the elder comes out. Now I know already because there's a book called Mystery of the Crystal Skulls, not our book, a different book by two British authors who I can't remember their name. And he was listed in the book and talking about how his people in Guatemala knew about crystal skulls, were guarding crystal skulls because they were sacred. And they had the Spanish come in and steal their skulls from them. So they had to like hold them secretly. So this is an elder who knows crystal skull. So I just have Portal on the table, and then the elder sees the skull, and he has a lady translate because my Spanish isn't very good. And she says to me, the elder is saying that this crystal skull that you have on the table, that's one of theirs, and you need to give it back to them. Well, I just told you before, there was a Brazilian carver who made this skull because I've met him. I'm personal friends with him. I've been to his shop. And I actually educated him in the beginning why people were kind of drawn to have their own crystal skull. So I said to him, to honor him, Grandfather, I'm sorry, this skull was made by a Brazilian carver. It's not one of yours. He said, no, you don't understand. This is one of ours. So I had to take out of another skull, which unfortunately he's charging one of the ones that I'm going to be sending someone. So he's behind me. You can kind of see the TV there. He's over there by the TV. His name is Geronimo Golden Eagle Eye. He's the indigenous skull we have. And that's just the name that he gave me. And I showed the elder Geronimo which was made by the same carver, and then he was quiet. So why would a Mayan shaman who has access to these very powerful crystal skulls, which they have to protect for the future of humanity, say Portal de Luz was one of theirs? It was because of the energy and the activation that I've done with him. I've
Okay.
taken him to sacred sites. We've been part of world peace meditations. He sat with me in private sessions with people. And I think that the intelligence that speaks through him is galactic. So the elder would feel these powerful energies with Portal de Luz, but he is a brand new crystal skull. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing up this story is that all of them have the potential to assist, to be a powerful tool to people. It just depends upon who is the guardian, not the owner, but the guardian that the skull comes from. And they pick us, we do not pick them. Who is working with it? Who is using it? It can open it up so these higher dimensional spiritual beings who are coming from great wisdom and knowledge and love, they could literally work through those skulls and make it look like there is a powerful intelligence working through them. So this is how Portal de Luz has explained to me what he's doing, but I have sensed the same phenomena with other crystal skulls I met. Like the Mitchell Hedges skull has a totally different energy. And if we have time, you should ask me about when I met the Atlantean ball, which I got to hold one time when I was in Florida Keys, how that energy is different from the skulls.
Well, being from the former Coast Guard guy, I got to know about Atlantis. So please tell the story.
Okay. See, I'm filled with all kinds of stories here. But stories are good because they illustrate aspects of how the crystal skulls work and they give people an idea. And I assure you, I'm not making this up. I'm very honest person, and there's no point to tell lies. I'm totally happy with what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm lucky I get to do interviews like this, and I'm not going to say that this work with crystal skulls has brought me great fame and fortune, but I love it and I'm helping people, and that's what's the most important for me. So anyway,
Okay.
with Katrina again, I just met her, and I was invited to go to a spiritual center in Key West. I believe that's the last of the islands, off the coast of Florida. And so we went to that center. It was about a 15-hour drive, I think, from Atlanta to get there. And so we stopped with a friend in Miami and then we went there. So by the time we arrived at the spiritual center, there was a man there who had what's called the Atlantean crystal ball. So the people, if you don't know what that is, there was a Dr. Brown who worked with not Jacques Vallée. There's some guy named Jock something who did underwater surveys and research. And so he participated in one of those things. I'm going to be 69 in less than 2 weeks. And the only thing that that troubles me sometimes is my memory. So
That wouldn't be Jacques Cousteau, would it?
yes, I knew you would remember that. Okay,
Right.
Jacques Cousteau. I'm lucky I
Old
remember that.
sailor.
I was going to say Jacques Vallée, but that's not him. He's the UFO guy. So Jacques Cousteau, Dr. Brown was on his expedition, and there was a storm. And when there's a storm, it reveals what's on the bottom of the ocean. So he decided to go down there and see what he found. Now, his story tells is he saw an Atlantean temple that got revealed from the storm, and he was able to go inside, and he went into a room. I'm going to have to try to position Portal here so I can show. Nope, got to put him over here or he'll fall off my lap. He's pretty heavy. He's about 10 pounds. So he went into this room, and it was a big room with a tall table, tall chairs. There was a beam from the ceiling with like a red ruby on it. And on the table were two hands holding a crystal ball. And a voice said to him, "Take the ball and leave and never come back again." So this is the story he tells how he got this ball. And then he started to share it publicly with people. And it had very strong but strange energies around it. So it affected people in many different ways. Anyway, he passed away. And the time that Katrina and I went to the center, there was a new guardian. He was dressed like a military person. I don't know exactly how he got this skull, but he worked with some lady and they agreed to allow the center to show people the skull and allow sessions. But we came too late for the sessions. So what he did is he did a circle meditation with us, and he would walk behind us holding the ball to give us, some energy. So, so that was great. He also said, I don't want your skulls around. They're a different energy and I don't want them to interfere with the ball. So I will publicly admit we put them away, except I put one in my pocket because I'm Aries. I'm not going to follow somebody if I don't agree. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets me in trouble, so be it. Like I had a similar experience at the British Museum with the British skull. Put 4 tiny skulls on the top and I almost got thrown out. But that's another story. So anyway, so I'm happy, to do the meditation. All of a sudden he comes over, he says, hold out your hands like this. And he puts the ball in my right hand. Now, the energetic aspect of this ball is still in my right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and I noticed that after he took it away. So I start meditating, and there were a bunch of people behind me, which I had no clue. And I got a vision, which I am told is a future. And I see a woman with a child standing next to me. I have not had any children in this lifetime, so I'm not sure what that meant. I thought it was a past life, but recently I received, no, this is a future vision that the ball gave you. So let me compare energetically, because this is my gift. Like when I do sessions, I could link into you, Dan, and I know things about you without you having to tell me, because
Okay.
I feel what it's like to be you. Now, I'm not always right, but generally I have a good sensing about who people are. That's just the gift, but I never misuse that gift.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe with the lady I did one. I'm just joking.
Another story, right?
Right. Another story. Um, so anyway, one other thing that we did while we were there is he had the ball in like a jar of water. So he said, okay, to the center, get rid of the water. We told them, please, before you throw the water away, will you allow us to put our skulls into that water? Because the water has the energy so that they could receive the energy of the ball. So that's basically what happened to me when I saw that. Now the end of the story is this gentleman went to Mount Shasta to a lady I know who has a store there with many crystal skulls. I've spoken there, and the ball shattered while it was at that store. So that ball does not exist anymore.
Oh, how did it shatter? Do you know?
No, I just heard that it's something about the energy there, or I didn't feel like he was the right guardian to have this skull. It's not for me to judge,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know why he had the ball, and it didn't seem like he was the person. So I think the ball protected itself so it would not be misused and it shattered. I also heard that the military stole the ball from Dr. Brown and it teleported itself back to him. And I can't confirm that, but I'm just trying to say. So the difference in the energy for me with the ball was the skulls are alive. There's a living consciousness, whereas
Mm-hmm.
the ball was a programmed consciousness. It was like whoever had this in Atlantis, they put a program in there, and that program would respond to a human being, to our aura, our energy. And
Okay.
so that's what was triggering it, but it didn't feel like it was an intelligence. It felt, because my background is that in computers. When I
Mm-hmm.
went to college, I got a degree in computers, and I've done programming, and now computers is the key for me to do all my work online. So I'm just very adept to working with them. So that's why I think I had the sensing of more of a computer-like program than
Okay.
intelligence. So that was my story.
But from Atlantis, and it was like a globe or a ball.
It was a ball, crystal ball.
And I remember reading, and I might have been in Charles Burlett's book or something about divers finding a temple they assumed was Atlanta, and it had a crystal
It's
skull in it, but it wasn't allowed to.
Well,
They weren't
that's
allowed to go in.
possible too, because I know for a fact that crystal skulls were linked to Atlantis. Why? Because I have soul memories of being in the temples with them. Like when I
Okay.
was with the Mitchell Hedges skull, it recognized me. How do I know this? The second time I was around it was at a conference in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So Anna Mitchell Hedges was still alive. She was the guardian. And I was very drawn. I wanted to experience the energy, see what it was like. So I was around her booth. And then she said, Joshua, could you sit here and watch the skull for me? I have to go do something. Now, why would she do that? Why would she trust me when she
So
barely
yes.
knew me at that point? I have to believe it was a skull working through her and saying,
Okay.
I know Joshua's soul. He was one of my guardians. So I think I was a guardian of the skull in a temple. And that's
Okay.
why I believe the Mitchell-headed skull was one of them. So that there could be underwater other temples holding crystal skulls. Yes, because there's the theory that there was like maybe 13 crystal skulls in Atlantis, one
Okay.
in 12 different temples. So maybe what you're talking about was another temple, and a 13th one, which was the main skull. So like they would put the 12 on the outer circle and the one in the main skull in the center, and they would do
Okay.
energetic work for the planet with that combination.
We're going to talk more about that. I've got to take off for a real quick, brief message. And when we get back, I want to hit more about that idea that these things are here for a purpose to help the planet. Okay. Joshua, would you hang on for just a second?
Of course.
I'll be right back. All right, my friends, this is really kind of wild. Think about this. It's these crystal skulls, 13 of them around, dating back to Atlantis or whatever, probably from some other civilization, if not here, somewhere else. But yet all these other ones are somehow link up to them, even the ones that are being made today. Need to really get into this more. But before we do, we also need to get into a brief discussion. Hold on.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio. Hey, UFO conference enthusiasts, we've got another great event for you in 2024. The Saucers and Aliens Kansas UFO Day in Dimension G is being held in the UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, on July 6th. This is a fun festival in the middle of nowhere. There will be a parade, decorated yards, costumes, vendors, speakers, and a showing of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Appropriately, an 8-foot-tall statue of Gort and a statue of Klaatu will be dedicated. This will be the only museum in the U.S. with these custom-made statues. If you'd like to donate to the statue project or attend the event, visit GeneseoMuseum.com. That's GENESEO Museum.com. Be sure to bring your camera when you attend the event. That's GeneseoMuseum.com.
All right, friends, there's so much we'll talk about after the show about becoming a member of the Onyx Network and all that good stuff. But I really want to get back here and talk more to Joshua because this is getting intriguing now. So you've got the 13 original skulls, and we don't know where they come from. And is the one in England that you dealt with one of them?
No, I believe that's an old skull
Mhm.
because it kind of looks like the Mitchell-Hedges skull in the shape, but it's single piece. But for me, energetically, although it is active and it's not being respected by the museum, also
Mhm.
that's why I brought Portal de Luz there. When I was taking him around the glass case, it's like in a corner of the British Museum. Portal de Luz became very dark. He literally was taking bad energy from that skull to help do a healing on it. I noticed.
Wow.
Um, so I think the British Museum skull, even if it is not one of the very old ones or so-called original, it still has an important role to play in history because it was one of the first to come out and be in a museum for people to see. And
Mhm.
the museum does call it a fake skull, and I don't feel that in any way, shape, or form. I think it
And
needs to be respected.
as you had corrected me, there are no fake skulls. They're just of
Yeah,
a different
yeah,
vintage, I suppose.
right. Each crystal skull has its own abilities and purpose, how it can be of service and help people or humanity.
Okay. So when you're dealing with these, and I'm talking about the ones that appear out of nowhere, are they somehow related to the others, or is this something that's a new
You're
phenomenon?
talking about a ported crystal skulls?
Yes.
Um, no, I can only speak with the one that I personally had. So when I
Mhm.
first received this apported skull, it come out of the mouth of the medium, and everybody knew who it was supposed to go to because all
Mhm.
these gemstones and jewels that came out of his mouth, he gifted it to the people who were there.
Wow.
Um, it had a very strong energy. Okay. It was like wherever it came from or however it was made, it was in a very powerful place. But as it has stayed with us, it's kind of integrated and I don't know how to say it other than accepted to be in our physical realm.
Okay.
So therefore, it's just one of the 30 some skulls that I have. It's not, it has a different story. It usually isn't one of the ones that I'm going to bring up or talk about, but sometimes when I have a whole bunch of the skulls out, some people may be drawn to that. Or like there were certain skulls Katrina brought in, which I had no affinity for, like a dragon skull, or
Mhm.
we actually have two what are called Mongolian skulls, which I think could be quite old. They don't look human like, they're done in a different type of shape. So if people get my free ebook on the crystal skulls or they go to the website, they can see what those two skulls look like. One is called Winema, which means female chief, and the other one is Tachula, which might be a Mayan name. So, but they look totally different.
Okay.
So each one just has its own purpose.
When you deal with these, and there's several of them around, are any of them giving off a dark, maybe even evil?
I understand the question.
Okay.
See, we in humanity have been brought up, and I'm sorry to say this, by certain very wealthy people who we might call the elite that want us to believe that evil is the way we're supposed to live and evil is what we have to accept in our life. And this is not the way that it's supposed to go for our world. So,
Okay.
unfortunately, because we have this, um, I don't know what you want to call it, consciousness, these ideas that we've been taught since we're young, this also affects the crystal skulls as well. The crystal skulls could be and have been, even some of the older ones, let's
Mhm.
say with the indigenous people where they were doing sacrifice and taking people's hearts out, they would put a crystal skull in the person's heart. So those skulls could pick up energy of man's inhumanity to man because it's a stone and it's just going to record the energies that go on around it.
Okay.
So until, and I know that we're in the process of this happening, and I have another book called Messages from Argus that talk about two profound experiences I've had, which we probably don't have time to go over. You'll have to bring me on again, perhaps,
We'll
that
do
I
it.
know. Right. I know for our future, we are going to a time of peace. Some people call it the Great Awakening, and it's not that far ahead. My future self, who is involved in one of my experiences, who I become in the future as a guy, says 2037 to 2040, it's a done deal. The children of this time will not know the horrific experiences that we have gone through over the past 100, 200 years, whatever it is. So, so I believe that because we're coming to this future, positive future, there's new technologies that exist that are getting ready to come out. There is a new financial system that's getting ready to come out. And I think some of this has to happen before the end of this year. So I think the skulls are a tool to help to prepare us for this positive future that's coming.
Okay, well, being raised as a Christian, I see things, and as a ghost hunter, in good and evil.
Yep.
When you talk about new financial systems, new political systems, and all of that, are these from the elite trying to keep us from the Enlightenment, or is this from the skulls trying to help us?
It's not from the skulls. It's
Okay.
from higher, more evolved spiritual beings, both galactic and human beings, who have made a commitment that they're going to work towards this positive future.
Okay.
So the new financial system has an advanced computer which purportedly has been given to us by the galactics that is unbreakable. In other words, when you log in, you can only get into your own account. If you try to get into someone else's account, you will be completely stopped because it reads your DNA.
Oh, okay.
This is what this is also, they talk about med beds, which there was a film called Elysium where they actually showed a med bed in there that also purportedly exists, which means the hospitals will no longer be needed. The drugs will no longer be needed. So these are some of the possibilities. Now, a lot of this information is given on Telegram, and because of the two profound experiences I have, this is why I have a sensing that what I'm telling you is future. Okay. I don't know when it's going to be released. I'm at mystery like everyone else. But I can tell you this, Dan, for the last week, I've had 3 days now where I would say I was in heaven because they were so perfect. Selling crystal skulls, a whole bunch of them, when I'm lucky if I do 1 or 2 a month within 5 or 10 days. Connections with people that were happening. A new website for the spiritual center, which you have me listed as, but we haven't talked about that. I'm in the process of creating. Lady shows up and volunteers to help me. So I'm sensing if these positive things are happening, maybe it's my birthday energy. April 17th is my birthday. But okay. I think too, this month of April, there are signs starting to come out that this positive future is coming. Maybe we're heading toward 5D. I don't know. So for me, the crystal skulls represent a tool to assist humanity to become more open to our true nature, which is divine children of God, our spiritual nature, our souls, and 5D energies, which are coming to the planet. I think they're helping to prepare us for all of this. Plus, some of the very old ones, if they did come from Atlantis, then they're going to have encoded inside of them in an energetic way, which sensitives can pick up, sacred knowledge and information from a very advanced civilization in the past. So I just see them as a really powerful tool that's propelling humanity to this future and helping us to create it, but not of its own doing it, unless there is one theory, which I created in one of my stories, so maybe it's true, that when the so-called 13 original crystal skulls come together, according to my story, they're brought to this very sacred place in Brazil, Alto Paraíso, High Paradise, which I've been to, that has the most amazing energy there. It also has a place where it looks like UFOs have landed. So, and they also say when a satellite goes over that area, there's light shining from the earth because of all the crystal there. So I saw a vision in there where the possibility of the most remarkable, advanced, enhanced, loving energy gets broadcast from the 13 skulls that are sitting there high up into the sky, totally covers our world, and everything becomes peaceful and harmonious. Like an Israeli and an Arab who are fighting with each other right now. They look at each other like, what are we fighting about? You're my brother. And they hug each other because that consciousness of violence and hatred, When this energy totally covers the world, it's gone. It's totally transformed. So this may be a possibility of how it happens linked to the skulls. I don't know,
Okay.
but that's what I tell in my story. So I stay with that for the moment.
Will there be a backlash or a struggle to stop this from happening by the ones who's in control now?
Well, there's already an undeclared war going on,
Mhm.
but what's her name? There's a lady who interviews all these whistleblowers, Carrie Cassidy.
Okay.
I saw her in an interview, and this struck a note with me. So this is how I would answer that. Okay, again, I can't prove this. This is based on my research. This is what I read on Telegram. This is what I resonate with. So Carrie Cassidy was saying that these people you're talking about who think they are in control, that they also have certain galactics who are very aggressive and warlike, that they work with, that are maybe controlling them in some way. Maybe they're connected to the hybrids that are being talked about. But Carrie Cassidy said from a higher level, now we're talking about at the level of angels and creators, these beings have interfered in the natural evolution of humanity on the earth. It can no longer be allowed. And the other thing is in order for them to stay in power, they have to tell us everything they're going to do before they do it. Otherwise, they lose everything. I
Okay.
think these people have already gone too far. For me, this undeclared war between the forces of light and darkness, the light has already won. But the challenge is, if you start talking about disclosure or crystal skulls or the paranormal or all these other intelligent races, a lot of people will go crazy. They're not ready for it.
Yes.
So I think this is part of the reason why the full truth has not been totally released to the public. Like it has to be kind of like gradual. But the clue on the new financial system that's already out there is the BRIC system. This is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa came together and agreed we are going to trade with each other and we're going to use our own currencies backed by precious metals. They already started this association on the 1st of this year. 5 new countries joined them, and there's like 20 more that want to become part of this system. This system is a mirroring of what the new financial system will look like. Like they're talking about for the new financial system, the new currency in the US will not be dollars. It will be the US note or the US Treasury note. And I've already seen on Telegram a video showing a machine that showed notes on one side of it that you have to put into it. I've already seen on Telegram what these notes may look like, and they will be backed by gold. So when are they going to come out? Some people think it's going to be this year. I don't know. So all of these things, I believe, all these frequencies and energies work together. But for me, I cannot imagine the possibility of our future that we do not have a world of total peace and harmony. I can't see it. That's all I can see.
I hope you're right.
Well, all I can do is share what I've seen as clues that we're in the process of this happening. For me, it's the galactics who will be probably the catalyst to bring a lot of this out, disclosure. So how that happens, I don't know, but I'm leaning toward the Pleiadians because they kind of look like us. I think they may come out first. In other words, there could come a point where the higher sources have said it's time for disclosure. Nothing can stop this. And they know a way to do it so people won't be in panic or fear. Because the elite have Project Bluebeam, which is a very high level holographic device that they could fake this. I think that the White Hats and Alliance who work on the light side have already prevented this from happening.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a lot of information. So when when you talk about, you find these skulls that people carve in other countries, is it the carver or the artist, or is it something from the other side that picks that skull? When I see people in New Orleans with these carved skulls and such, are they also potentially
no, because they are being created for another purpose.
Okay.
So if it's a carved skull, what's the purpose? Is it
Well, for these, make money.
Well, it can be to make money, or it can also be that the carver is being inspired to make them,
Hmm.
knowing that even though they will be sold, okay, because when I sell skulls, I don't feel, bad about it because the person is willing to pay the price. I have to pay the carver too, and from the
Yes.
money I receive, it allows me to keep doing my work, so it's a form of mine earning income. But then I have a lot of things I do for free, like the free ebooks, which we haven't talked about yet. Or
Yes.
I'm doing a presentation next week in Winter Haven, which is south of Orlando, and that will be a free talk, which gives people an opportunity to meet me in the Scouts and then decide if they want the class I'm going to do about 2 weeks later. I'm doing
Okay.
the same thing by Tampa. There's a store I will go the next day, do a free talk, they'll meet me, and then at the end of June, I have a 5 hour workshop so they can decide if they want to do that or not. So it's about balance, okay?
Okay.
So a lot of the carvers, I think, maybe they're doing it to make a living, but at the same time, they're being inspired how to carve the skull, or to do it in a way so that when it goes to the guardian, whoever it's supposed to go to, that
Hmm.
this will be an object that will help that person in their life tremendously. So
Okay.
I think a lot of the carvers do that, thinking that this will be something that will benefit people.
Well, and the information's amazing, and I hope you will come back because I know there's a lot more to talk about with this,
Oh
more than
yeah,
I ever dreamed. But
right.
let's go ahead and talk about the books you wanted to tell folks about.
Okay, so I have 9 free ebooks. So while COVID was going on, my guidance said, we don't want you traveling anymore. I've started to travel now, but for about 3 years, I didn't travel. So I'm Aries. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. So I start working on these free ebooks. And my whole goal about who I am, if you were to ask me in one line, I'm here to share the best information I come on. So, of
Okay.
course, I have a free ebook on crystal skulls. These are all in a PDF file. And if a person emails me at crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com, if you email me there, I have a list I give you with a direct link to every free ebook so you can discuss. So I have a Crystal Skull free ebook. I'm also very interested in Tartaria, which means the history we were taught in school is false. I also don't believe our world is a globe. So I'll leave it at that because that area is so controversial. But I will tell you, I saw a manual or a document from NASA talking about an experimental craft, and they kept saying flat, non-rotating Earth all over that document. So what does NASA know they're not telling us? The
Yeah.
Earth is not a globe. I talked with Gene Decode several times, so that inspired me to do 2 books that have to do with possibly activities that are happening behind the scenes that you'll never hear in the media, but you would find on alternative, uh, media if it's allowed to go without being censored.
Hmm.
Okay, so I have 2 books like that. What else? Is the Earth a computer simulation? I have a book about that. I have a book about my 2 profound experiences and why my guide is called Argus. That's why it's called
Okay.
Messages from Argus. And then I have 2 other books which are by other authors. One maybe from MJ12 talking about UFOs. And the other one is by another man who's written very similar books to me, also talking about that everything that we learned is a lie. And he
Okay.
goes into these subjects. So my goal is with the free ebooks to provide alternative information. So when the truth starts coming out, like we talked about before, you're not going to be so in shock and so surprised, and you'll actually be able to help your family and friends so they don't panic. Okay,
That's
because
awesome.
it's all good stuff. But in order for the good stuff to happen, the old systems have to die, and they are dying right now. They have to literally fall apart. And
Hmm.
so many of us are thinking, oh, we're going to live our life the rest of this way. But this is not for our highest good. This is for the elite's highest good. So it's all coming apart. So I
Okay.
just know that we're headed, and I know the crystal skulls are here to help us. And also, we do, oh, yeah, one other thing that's important. On
Yeah.
the 13th day of every month at the 13th hour, we have a Crystal Skull World Peace Meditation. So, again, if you email me, I'll give you the link to the website. My friends Harry and Kathy in British Columbia on Vancouver Island are coordinating it. And they have a beautiful audio, and then they do a live video with the meditation. So you don't have
Okay.
to have a crystal skull, just a special gemstone you work with, and they have an audio that guides you through. So this is another way how we're trying to help to bring this very wonderful, amazing, peaceful, loving, fantastic energies to our planet. I only accept that as our future. I can't speak any other way.
I hope you're right. Do I have the email correct? Crystal Skull
Explorers@gmail.com. Right.
And
so really, if anybody has anything they want to talk to me about, and don't be afraid to contact me. Don't think Joshua's so busy. I'm not so busy. Please make me busy. All right. Email me and I'll tell you about the free ebooks. You can look at the website. You might want to get your own Crystal Skull. I just had 4 new ones that came in that I haven't told anyone about yet. Okay, and I have 2 more boxes coming this month, and I can activate them for you too. And Katrina also does what's called a Katrina boost. I just hold it, and she comes inside, and I think it's angelic energy she's putting into it. It's really amazing. Let's just say all the skulls she's boosted, I haven't had any complaints.
All right.
The last person who just got it in Holland just said, I can't believe how powerful this goes. So,
all right, Josh, we have to go, but I do appreciate you coming on. I want to bring you back soon, and I will contact you for those ebooks because I think we could base a couple of shows on some of that stuff.
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure, Dan. Thank you for the opportunity today.
Oh, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a blast. I will talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Josh. Take care. All right, guys, you seen it? Crystal Skull stuff. It's so amazing. And the 13 he talked about is the ones that I had heard of, but to go on like that, just God, it's incredible. It's neat to think. And you guys know I got skulls all over the place, but they're plastic, or I got a glass one up there that holds whiskey or something. So maybe I need to pick up one of these. We'll see. All right, real quick, I do want to hit and discuss with you. Don't forget Crystal Skull Explorers at gmail.com for the free books, free PDFs. So anyway, I do want to talk to you just real quick about what's coming up. I've got the Sullivan Library in Sullivan, Missouri. I'll be lecturing about the haunts of Missouri, October 15th, 2024, 6 p.m. at the library for right now. Last time I went to Sullivan Library, they had so many people sign up. We ended up in the haunted Harney Mansion, which I've been in, the General Harney's old mansion. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Also, there's a West Virginia paranormal artistry thing, but I'm going to be lecturing there on May 11th. It's in Beckley, West Virginia. And if you want to check that out, just type in Paracon, Beckley, West Virginia. And also, don't forget the UNX Network's got the UNX, the XCon in Springfield, Missouri. We did it last year. Excuse me. Turns out the hotel was very, very haunted. Joining the UNX Network is as simple as going to unxnetwork.com, going down a little bit, put your email address in. For all of that work, for all that sweat you've got to put into it, you get the access to the blog. And the X blog comes out. I mean, lately, guys, it's been burning up because of all the stuff going on. Cube-shaped UFOs, Mothman being seen, bridges going down. Always something on the blog. Also, you get a newsletter, which kind of comes up and talks about all the things going on in different places. And the UNX magazine is free. It comes to you by email once a month. That's just some of the books, but there's some really great authors there. We're talking about anything, conspiracies, talking about ghosts, cryptids, Mothman, curses, witches, time travel. Everything is covered on there. If you are interested in something that's paranormal, we cover it. Also, the XCon 2024 I talked about, October 11th to the 13th in Springfield, Missouri. Get in on that. Once you become a member, you'll be able to keep up on who the speakers are and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and step off, but I want you guys, and I know it's tough, but the most important thing that we could ask you all to do is to stay spooked. All right?